Have you ever wanted to be younger, to reverse time, even if it's just by like 1 or 2 years? Well, that's sort of what's happening in South Korea.
South Koreans became a year or two younger on Wednesday.
An international age counting system has gone into effect in South Korea.
내년이면 30인데 만나이 시행하면서 2살 어려져서 이제 30이랑 조금 더 멀어진 기분이라서 좀 더 어려진 기분이라서 기분이 좋고 이번 생일은
I love this story so much. So, okay, at this point, you might be very confused if you weren't aware that in several East Asian countries, they count age differently. So let me explain how all South Koreans are, in a very meaningful way, de-aging. So in South Korea, they count age, the way we do for legal and medical matters. But culturally, there's a more traditional way of counting age that's very deeply ingrained. And this is largely how Koreans see each other, by their traditional age or by their Korean age. So in Korea, you're born and you start at age, sorry, I'm just trying to draw a little baby here. You start at age 1. So, it's not like here where you're like 0 and then a few months and then on your first birthday you turn 1. In South Korea, a newborn baby is 1 year old. But that's not all. We usually think of ourselves getting older on our birthdays, but in South Korea, everyone ages on January 1st. So, your age is more tied to the calendar year than whatever day you happen to be born. You still with me? There are two important consequences of these differences. One is that everyone born in a given calendar year is actually the same age, right? So if we draw a little timeline here, let's say this is January at this end, this is December over here. So a January baby and a December baby are the same age because they were born in, let's say this was last year, in the same calendar year, even though they're separated by almost 12 months. But the other thing is that if you have someone, let's say, born on December 31st, the very next day, okay, so I'll draw another timeline here, same thing, January to December, except now we're in 2023. So someone born on December 31st, the very next day, because they've crossed that January 1st threshold, they turn 2. So a 2-day-old baby can be 2 years old in Korean age. Again, because they're born at 1 and then they age the next day, so they become 2. Still with me? Okay, good. Because they're about to get rid of that whole system, and that makes things a little complicated. So just yesterday, a new law took effect that scrapped Korea's traditional way of counting age in order to just adopt the international standard, like right across the board, which means that retroactively, everyone decreases their age by 1 because, they were no longer 1 year old when they were born. They were 0. So everyone gets 1 year younger. But then some people will actually become 2 years younger. How does that work? Well, let's just imagine, say, a child was born in October, which is roughly there on the timeline. So in Korean years, they were 1 year old when they were born. And they turned 2 about 3 months later over here, right? When they crossed January 1st, because everyone ages in the new year. But in the new system, as of yesterday, that baby was actually 0 years old when they were born, stayed 0 through the calendar year, just because that's how things work in the international system, because January 1st is meaningless for age now. And today, we're roughly in the middle of the year, it's June, they're still 0, right? Because we haven't actually hit their birthday, which is in October. So Whereas in the old system, they were 2 years old today, despite being like 8 months old. Now they get punted back down to 0. They only turn 1 later this year in October on their actual birthday. So they go back 2 years. That's neat, eh? So if you've already had your birthday this year, you would only get 1 year younger. If your birthday is coming up, you get 2 years younger. And people in South Korea have thoughts.
그냥 좋았어요. 어려져서.
근데 보통 나이로 생각하는 거는 뭐 생일이 안 지나도 그 나이로 치니까 우리 세대는 그렇게 다 습관화가 돼놔서 나는 한국 나이가 참 좋게 생각해. 뱃속에 있을 때부터 태어난 생명이니까 나이를 쳐주는 것도 좋잖아요, 그게.
외국에서 학교를 다녔는데 그때마다 친구들한테 여러 번 설명을 해줘야 하는 불편함에서 이제 좀 해소될 수 있겠다.
Now, if you're wondering why South Korea has suddenly decided to go this route, I mean, you can sort of see the appeal, right, of just adopting the international standard. It's certainly less confusing, definitely requires less explanation, but the traditional system has actually grown quite unpopular at the same time. A government survey last year found that 86% of South Koreans said they would start using their international age in their everyday life. Because, hey, who wouldn't want to claw back a couple years, right?